Here are 3 true, horrifying cabin horror stories that will send chills down your spine. Story 1. The Cabin in the Woods, a rustic cabin in the Appalachian Mountains. In the summer of 2019, a group of 5 college friends planned a weekend getaway to a remote cabin in the Appalachian Mountains. Excited for a break from their studies and a chance to bond, they packed their bags and headed into the woods. The cabin was quaint and charming. The mood was light and laughter filled the air until one of them, Tom, suggested they explore the forest at night. They approached cautiously, all agreeing it was just a spooky relic of the past. The friends were paralyzed with fear, torn between fleeing the scene or investigating further. They decided to hide in the corner of the room, silencing their breaths. Moments later, a shadowy figure entered the cabin, sniffing the air and muttering softly to itself. As they ventured inside, they found remnants of a long-abandoned life, dusty furniture, looking for solace after a stressful year. Initially dismissing it as a branch falling, she tried to ignore it. But when the noise continued thumps against the cabin's walls, her anxiety began to mount. Gripped by fear, Sarah decided to call a friend, but she soon realized her cell phone had no signal. The isolation weighed heavily on her. Gathering her courage, she peeked out the window, but saw nothing in the moonlit clearing. Heart pounding, she quickly returned inside and locked the door. The whispers turned into frantic knocking, pounding from every side of the cabin. She felt compelled to investigate, but knew she should remain inside. However, the whispers intensified, now sounding almost like her name. Finally, she could no longer resist. As dawn broke, she discovered strange symbols scratched into the wooden door. The moment she felt safe enough to leave, she packed and fled, vowing never to return. The family noticed that some items seemed to be out of place. Cookware that was usually in one location was found elsewhere, and doors creaked open on their own. They shrugged it off, blaming it on their old family cabin's quirks. The rental agency later informed her they had received complaints about similar occurrences from other customers, all citing unsettling experiences at that cabin. An elderly relative recounted a tale about the cabin's dark past, and a loud bang echoed through the halls. Characters from their stories suddenly felt real. At around 2 a.m., they were jolted awake by what sounded like a party occurring in the kitchen, complete with laughter and chatter, hinting it may have been built on land that once belonged to someone who had mysteriously vanished. The family laughed it off, but the ambience shifted. Tensions rose, and the younger members began to feel anxious. She grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. Nestled among towering pines, the cabin had no neighbors nearby, just the serene sounds of nature. Confused, they gathered in the living room and stayed awake, hoping the sounds would stop. As dawn broke, they discovered an old mirror in the living room was cracked, though they were certain it had been fine the night before. The first few days were peaceful, filled with books, long walks, and time by the water, yet an unsettling feeling hung over them. The remnants of the Pastor Wurskan lingered just beyond the door. When it was time to leave, they packed nervously, and just as they were ready to go, they found old, yellowed photographs of a family eerily similar to theirs, tucked behind the sofa, all their faces scratched out. No one spoke of it out loud, yet every member felt the same chilling apprehension. They left for good, never to return, haunted by the idea that they were not alone in the cabin, nor ever had been, hoping for a nostalgic reunion. All felt excited and welcomed the cozy atmosphere as they reminisced about past visits. But there was a peculiar chill in the air that made them uneasy. Decaying photos and strange symbols carved into the walls. Fueled by a mix of curiosity and bravado, they grabbed flashlights and set off into the darkness, surrounded by tall trees and a peaceful lake. After wandering for about an hour, they stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cabin that looked eerily like their own. Suddenly, they heard footsteps outside. After what felt like an eternity, the figure left, leaving the door ajar. The friends sprinted back to their cabin, hearts racing. They locked the door and hesitated to talk about what had happened. The next morning, terrified, they packed their things. As they drove away, they realized they had left some belongings behind. When they returned a week later to collect them, they found that their cabin had been ransacked. And they received reports from locals that strange happenings were being reported in the area, warning to stay away from the woods. Story 2. The Lonely Cabin, a secluded cabin near a lake in the Pacific Northwest. In early 2021, a woman named Sarah decided to spend a quiet week at a cabin she had rented by the lake. On the fourth night, Sarah heard a loud thud coming from outside just as she was settling in for bed. That evening, the sounds grew louder, now accompanied by what seemed like low whispers. As the night wore on, the disturbances escalated. As she walked around the cabin, she saw strange footprints leading away into the dense woods. That night, Sarah hardly slept, jumping at every sound. Story 3. The Haunted Cabin Tale, a family cabin passed down through generations. A family owned a secluded cabin located in the dense woods of Vermont for decades. In 2020, they decided to spend Thanksgiving there, the first night, while preparing for dinner. Later that evening, as the family gathered around the fireplace to share ghost stories. That night, as they prepared for bed, the lights flickered, curious and slightly anxious. They ventured out to find the kitchen empty and cold. Days passed without incident. These true horror stories serve as reminders that while cabins can offer a retreat into nature,